a ship that is sinking. As with all things that begin, they are birthed into existence. This art piece explores the concept of antinatalism, an idea that I am particularly fond of. Antinatalism posits that birth is inherently a sin, an unconsented act of bringing a new life into a chaotic world. This perspective holds that existence is fundamentally characterized by suffering, and by choosing to reproduce, we are essentially condemning others to join us on this sinking ship, a ship destined for inevitable collapse. The metaphor of sinking can be interpreted in various ways. It might symbolize the looming threat of global warming, a crisis exacerbated by human activity and the relentless pursuit of economic growth. Alternatively, it can represent the destructive nature of capitalism, the prevailing economic system that prioritizes profit over the well-being of people and the planet. This system perpetuates widespread misery, with its exploitative practices and inherent inequalities impacting every common man. Given this context, one must question the wisdom of reproduction. In a world fraught with so much suffering and burden, bringing children into existence seems profoundly irresponsible. Our competitive, free market economy places immense pressure on individuals, valuing profit above all else, often at the expense of livelihoods and the environment. To have children in such a world is to subject them to an uncertain and precarious future, where security and well-being are far from guaranteed. I believe that choosing not to have children is a more ethical stance than reproducing without consideration of the consequences. We have yet to create a livable standard that ensures a secure and fulfilling future for the next generation. Until we can provide a stable, sustainable environment and dismantle the structures that perpetuate harm, antinatalism remains a morally sound position. The turmoil we face arises from the heavy responsibility of bringing new life into an insecure and unstable world. What legacy are we leaving for our children? A scorching planet plagued by environmental degradation, economic disparity, and a culture that venerates corporations above all else. These corporations, driven by profit motives, wield immense power over global politics and market dynamics, often to the detriment of society and the environment. In light of these considerations, we must confront the ethical implications of reproduction. As long as capitalism continues to dominate as the ruling economic system, perpetuating cycles of exploitation and environmental destruction, we have no right to bring children into such a world. The act of birth, under these circumstances, is not justifiable, and antinatalism emerges as a rational and compassionate response to the current state of affairs. We have no right to bear children for as long as capitalism is the ruling economic system. God forgive. 1 John 1:9. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just and will forgive us our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. Disgusting. As if we as sinners could ever satisfy ourselves with only God's love. How dare we ask for forgiveness after committing so many crimes? We are truly unworthy of God's love, and it disgusts me to see people taking the merciful act of forgiveness and taking it as if all is forgiven on the side of God. When we do it out of fear, we are truly in presence of God. Love is weak compared to the eternal suffering we may face for not repenting in fear. What if God doesn't forgive? What if our sins eat us just as worms eat our dead, unrepentant flesh? We don't deserve mercy. The doctrine of original sin, as articulated by St. Augustine, posits that humanity is inherently sinful due to the fall of Adam and Eve. This condition of sinfulness means that no one is righteous on their own. All fall short of the glory of God. Romans 3:23. In this light, any act of divine forgiveness is profoundly unmerited. Each person, through their actions, thoughts, and omissions, contributes to a pattern of sinfulness that distances them from divine perfection. Even the most devout believers acknowledge their continual need for repentance and divine mercy. This awareness fosters a sense of humility and dependence on God's grace. The paradox of forgiveness lies in the tension between God's boundless mercy and humanity's inherent unworthiness. We reflect the divine love that forgives us despite our unworthiness, embodying the transformative power of grace in a world in dire need of compassion and mercy. In contrast to the painting when I prayed to God during one of the peaks of my psychosis, the pain only grew stronger, as if to say forgiveness for my acts can only be repented through my suffering. God, Have mercy on me after I die, for he has left us in the chaos of this hell that he allowed. Would I spit in God's face and then ask for his forgiveness? The way the world is treating it, it is done on a daily basis. We continue to spit in God's face only to ask for forgiveness later. But rapture is not necessary, for God will have left us all. He's watching me. This piece delves into the unsettling sensation that everyone is constantly watching you, akin to the experience of living in a Truman Show matrix. In this distorted sense of reality, it feels as though you are under perpetual surveillance, devoid of any privacy. You become the singular figure whose identity stands apart from everyone else. The only man alive, all others are fragments of a coexisting universe who are passively watching the main character through his suffering. I am the only one who is watching the true reality. All are merely extras who appear to have a life of their own, but in reality are just watchers of a dodeca, the idea of a multi-viewer experience, where the reality of a single ontological being is sensed and felt through the eyes of the main subject. That is the one and only true reality. As you watch the figure in the piece, you are watching him, so the subject matter turns into he, referring to you watching the figure in terror. But the complete opposite applies as well. His face covered, but his eyes looking at the viewer. In a sense, he turns into the figure your eyes behold. This creates a disconcerting dynamic where the act of watching becomes reciprocal. In this piece, the viewer's gaze is both a source of power and vulnerability. As you watch the figure, you exercise control over the narrative, yet simultaneously, the figure's return gaze subjects you to scrutiny. This duality evokes a deep sense of unease, highlighting the inherent tension in the act of being watched. It mirrors the psychotic experience where the distinction between self and others becomes increasingly ambiguous, leading to a state of heightened paranoia and isolation. So the question is, who is watching whom? You watching the man in terror, or the man in terror watching you? Both are correct, yet the turmoil here comes from the fear of being perceived by another entity. Itch. Itching is a universal human experience, a small yet persistent sensation that demands our attention and action. Itching, both literal and metaphorical, serves as a potent symbol in art and literature, embodying themes of discomfort, desire, and the human condition's restlessness. At its core, itching is a physical sensation that triggers an almost irresistible urge to scratch. This basic physiological response is driven by the need to alleviate discomfort, often caused by an irritant or underlying condition. The act of scratching, while providing temporary relief, can sometimes exacerbate the sensation, creating a cycle of discomfort and response. This cycle is emblematic of many human experiences, where attempts to resolve discomfort lead to further complications. In art, itching frequently symbolizes a state of discomfort or unease. This discomfort can be physical, psychological, or existential. Artists use itching to convey a character's internal turmoil or societal discord. For instance, in Franz Kafka's novella, The Metamorphosis, Gregor Samsa's transformation into an insect brings about not only physical discomfort, but also a profound sense of alienation and disquiet. The incessant itchiness he experiences becomes a metaphor for his existential plight and the deeper disconnection from his own humanity and family. Beyond discomfort, itching also symbolizes desire and longing. This is particularly evident in literature and cinema, where characters' desires are often portrayed as an itch that must be scratched. This metaphor extends to the pursuit of dreams, love, or forbidden pleasures. The itch represents an insatiable drive, a need that compels individuals to take action, often with significant consequences. Itching can also symbolize the historical and ongoing struggles for freedom and equality. The persistent itch represents the unyielding desire for justice and the discomfort of living in an oppressive society. This is poignantly depicted in works like Richard Wright's Native Son, where the protagonist's constant agitation mirrors the collective itch for civil rights and social change. Please stop. The desire for someone to stop tormenting another being is a profound expression of empathy and justice. It emerges from witnessing or experiencing acts of cruelty and yearning for the cessation of such inhumane behavior. However, this plea for mercy and cessation often paradoxically provokes the oppressor to intensify their harshness. Torment, by definition, is the act of inflicting severe physical or mental suffering on another being. Oppression involves the systematic and prolonged unjust treatment or control of individuals or groups. Both torment and oppression are rooted in the desire for power and control, often driven by underlying insecurities, prejudices, or ideological beliefs. The oppressor seeks to assert dominance, maintain superiority, and suppress any threats to their authority or worldview. Oppressors may experience cognitive dissonance when confronted with the suffering they cause. Cognitive dissonance is the psychological discomfort arising from holding two conflicting beliefs or attitudes. To reduce this discomfort, oppressors might intensify their cruelty to justify their actions and maintain their self-image as powerful and righteous individuals. By escalating their torment, they suppress any internal conflict and reinforce their belief in the legitimacy of their actions. Dehumanization is a psychological process that allows oppressors to view their victims as less than human, thereby justifying their cruelty. When the oppressed or their advocates appeal for mercy, it forces the oppressors to confront the humanity of their victims. This confrontation threatens the oppressor's dehumanizing narrative, prompting them to double down on their cruelty to reinforce the dehumanization and maintain their psychological defenses. The desire for control is a powerful motivator for oppressors. Appeals for mercy are perceived as threats to their authority. To reassert dominance, oppressors may resort to harsher measures, using increased cruelty as a means to quell dissent and demonstrate their unassailable power. Profit. One of the most pervasive unethical practices is the exploitation of labor. This includes underpaying workers, forcing them to work in unsafe conditions, and violating labor rights. Sweatshops in developing countries, where workers toil for long hours at minimal wages, are a stark example of this exploitation. Companies often justify this by pointing to the lower cost of living in these regions, but this rationale ignores the basic human rights and dignity of the workers. The consequences of labor exploitation are severe. Workers suffer physically and mentally, their quality of life deteriorates, and social inequality is perpetuated. Businesses frequently disregard environmental regulations to cut costs and increase profits. This includes illegal dumping of toxic waste, excessive emissions of greenhouse gases, and deforestation. Such practices lead to environmental degradation, which has far-reaching impacts on ecosystems and human health. Price gouging involves raising prices to exorbitant levels, particularly during crises when demand is high and supply is low. This practice is unethical as it exploits consumers' vulnerabilities and urgent needs. During natural disasters, essential goods like food, water, and medical supplies become critical, and unethical businesses take advantage of the situation to maximize profits. As the work entails the largest pile of blood, it is a metaphorical way of vocalizing that the profit motive kills far greater than any disease or war, which are both gate-kept and exploited by the ruling elite who dominate the market. Money is the root of all evil, with most bloodshed on its hands. While unethical means can drive short-term profit, they invariably lead to long-term detriments for businesses, society, and the environment. Exploitation of labor, environmental degradation, deceptive advertising, price gouging, and corruption are practices that undermine ethical standards and have severe consequences. It is imperative for businesses to adopt ethical practices, not only to ensure their own sustainability, but also to contribute positively to the broader community and the planet. The pursuit of profit should never come at the cost of integrity, fairness, and responsibility. For the profit motive will be the end of human civilization. So long as profit comes before human lives, we will continue to live in this capitalist dystopia. Here's the text you provided. Control. Imagine being in a body with 3 heads, each possessing its own brain, thoughts, and desires. This disorienting and uncomfortable experience epitomizes a profound lack of control. The presence of multiple brains, each with its distinct needs and priorities, inevitably leads to internal conflict and chaos. The discord between these competing needs can escalate quickly, as each head struggles to assert dominance and fulfill its unique desires. In this hypothetical scenario, the body becomes a battleground for the three heads, each pulling in different directions. One head might crave rest, another might demand food, while the third could seek stimulation or social interaction. The simultaneous pursuit of these conflicting needs results in a state of perpetual tension and frustration, as satisfying one head's desire often means neglecting the others. The lack of control in this situation highlights the importance of coherence and unity in achieving effective functioning. Just as a body with three independent heads would struggle to operate harmoniously, individuals and organizations without clear, centralized control mechanisms can find themselves mired in conflict and inefficiency. The scenario serves as a metaphor for the chaos that ensues when control is fragmented and uncoordinated, emphasizing the need for aligned goals and integrated efforts to maintain order and achieve desired outcomes. Much like our politics with each conflicting desire, hierarchy is a detriment that needs to be eliminated. No head is more valid than the other, and as such, we cannot accept the domination of one over another. For we, as a whole, need to accept the lack of control we have and embrace the full body as a compromise of all for all. Only through cooperation can we have the control that is genuine and in harmony with one another. The art piece explores the lack of control that we have. Sometimes we have no control over our own bodies, like when we want to work but are stuck in a limbo of wasting away. Or in this artwork's case, it comes off as a conflicting idea to another person. Control, in this case, is a never-ending desire that all of us have to face. The desire to go to the gym, the desire to have control over our own body parts, the desire to control others for our own benefit. It is a desire that is greedy, that never ends, and cannot be eliminated. I'm going crazy. I've always had a desire to peel off my face, to end all frustration, and to feel relief through this destructive behavior. It simply felt right, like I was finalizing a contemporary discomfort through a satisfying revelation. Behind this flesh, I am human, made of flesh, bones, and blood. Behold the view that we all have beneath the surface. To me, it screams the beauty we all hide, a universal ugliness in all of us. Just as a negative multiplied in mathematics turns into a positive, so too does this negative of removing skin from the face turn into human beauty, a manifestation of nature's artistic choice, assembling essential parts to complete the beauty of the human body. This desire to peel off my face is not just a literal craving. It symbolizes a deep need to remove the superficial layers that mask my true self. It is a metaphor for uncovering the raw, unfiltered essence of humanity, confronting the primal aspects of our existence from which we often flee. This act of revealing what lies beneath the surface is both a confrontation and an acceptance of the inherent flaws and imperfections that make us human. The grotesque becomes beautiful, and the hidden becomes celebrated. Going crazy is essential for an artist. How else would we create with inspiration from our expressive spirit? Embracing madness allows us to break free from the constraints of conventional thinking and social norms, diving into the depths of our psyche to extract raw, unpolished gems of creativity. It is in this radical departure from reason that true artistic innovation is born. This willingness to embrace chaos and disorder is what pushes art forward, challenging perceptions and shifting the boundaries of what is possible. The act of peeling off the face can be considered a form of radical honesty, an uncompromising look at oneself and the world. It is an acknowledgement that true beauty does not lie in perfection, but in the authentic and often messy reality of our existence. By confronting inner ugliness, we can transcend it, finding a deeper, more refined sense of beauty that is rooted in truth and authenticity. In this process, the artist becomes a conduit for the collective unconscious, channeling the hidden fears, desires, and traumas that reside in all of us. The artwork becomes a mirror, reflecting the struggles and insecurities of the viewer, offering a path to catharsis and self-acceptance. Through this radical vulnerability, the artist fosters a sense of connection and empathy, bridging the gap between individual experiences and the universal human condition. Albert Einstein, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. The repeating text present in all the works in Turmoil relies on this quote from Albert Einstein, repetitive words that subjects may repeat to themselves to cope with the reality presented to them. And so the repetition is reflected through the blood in all the works, as it causes physical pain to repeat them over and over again, and some repetitions lead to bloodshed. Intimacy. The depiction of a woman in a moment of deep personal reflection is a profound expression of intimacy, rawness, and the inherent human quest for understanding and connection. This act, captured in a solitary moment of contemplation, strips away societal norms and taboos, revealing the core of the human condition. We are beings driven by our natural instincts and desires. Intimacy is often associated with interpersonal connections, but it can also be deeply personal and internal. The act of self-reflection, especially when portrayed publicly or artistically, challenges conventional notions of privacy and intimacy. It lays bare the most private moments of personal contemplation, creating a paradoxical space where internal satisfaction becomes a shared spectacle. In the turmoil of stress and societal pressures, this act of self-reflection stands as a rebellion against external constraints. It is a declaration of self-sovereignty, where the individual claims ownership over their body and its sensations. The figure in this art piece embodies this defiance, finding solace and peace in the most personal of acts amidst a world that often demands conformity and restraint. Self-reflection is a mirror of the human condition at its core. It is an act that underscores our biological and psychological needs. We are, fundamentally, beings driven by the pursuit of understanding and fulfillment. This pursuit is not merely physical, but is intertwined with emotional and psychological well-being. The act of self-reflection becomes a means of reconnecting with one's inner self, understanding its responses, and embracing its needs without judgment. This simple truth, that we seek understanding and fulfillment, is a testament to our imperfection and our natural desires. The term natural here does not imply moral corruption, but rather the departure from societal expectations of purity and sanctity. It acknowledges that humans are flawed beings, seeking solace and joy in the tangible, personal experiences that life offers. The figure in the art piece, engaging in self-reflection without shame, symbolizes liberation from societal constraints. This lack of shame is not about disregarding others' comfort, but about reclaiming one's right to experience and express personal fulfillment. The ultimate sense of peace, a peak of personal ecstasy, is portrayed as a natural and fundamental human experience. By presenting this act without shame, the art challenges viewers to confront their own discomforts and biases. It forces a reevaluation of what is considered acceptable and moral, pushing the boundaries of artistic expression and societal norms. The figure's indifference to judgment highlights a critical aspect of human existence: the need to prioritize personal well-being and fulfillment over societal approval. It challenges viewers to consider the inherent beauty in human vulnerability and the pursuit of fulfillment. The act of self-reflection, often shrouded in secrecy and stigma, is elevated to a form of art that celebrates the body's natural responses and desires. Exhale, inhale. As with all things that live, they have to end, to die. Suicide is a topic that has likely touched everyone at some point in their lives, whether through personal thoughts, experiences, or the loss of someone close. It raises profound and often painful questions. Is life worth living? Do I need a clear sense of meaning to continue? Is there any escape from the relentless turmoil of existence? These questions are not easily answered, and for many, the weight of these thoughts can become overwhelming. At the heart of suicidal thoughts often lies the existential question of whether life is inherently valuable or meaningful. For those grappling with these thoughts, the struggle isn't just about coping with current pain, but also about finding reasons to continue living amidst suffering. Viktor Frankl, in his seminal work Man's Search for Meaning, suggests that finding a purpose can help individuals endure even the most harrowing conditions. However, for many, the quest for meaning is fraught with challenges, and the absence of clear purpose can make the burdens of life feel insurmountable. Life's inevitable sorrows and turmoil can weigh heavily, creating a sense of drowning under the pressure of relentless challenges. This metaphorical drowning captures the feeling of being overwhelmed by life's difficulties, where every attempt to rise above the surface seems thwarted by an unyielding force pulling one back down. It's a state of persistent struggle, where moments of respite are rare and fleeting. The emotional and psychological weight of this struggle can be exhausting. When faced with constant adversity, some individuals begin to see suicide as the only exit from their suffering. It's perceived not as a desire to die, but as a desperate need to escape from unrelenting pain. This distinction is crucial in understanding the mindset of those contemplating suicide. They are seeking an end to their suffering, not necessarily an end to life itself. Sometimes we just want to breathe from drowning in sorrow and turmoil of life, of what seems to be the only exit and relief of the chains that keep on weighing us down as we struggle to swim up to the surface. After a life of constant drowning and fighting for air, in death, I finally breathe. The artist Mateo Jufic deeply immerses himself in the human condition, capturing the essence of Namira in his project. Each work within this project bears witness to the multifaceted nature of human struggle, encompassed through 5 distinct yet interconnected elements. These elements not only define the visual composition of his work, but also serve as powerful metaphors for various aspects of inner conflict and existential anxiety. A central element of Jufic's exploration is the use of distorted charcoal strokes. These chaotic lines are more than mere marks on the artwork. They symbolize the very essence of unrest. The irregular, unpredictable movements of the charcoal mimic the unpredictable and often overwhelming nature of internal and external conflicts. These strokes create a visual representation of the turbulence that can engulf an individual, reflecting the disorder and confusion inherent in the human experience. The gray floor in Jufic's works serves as a foundation of uncertainty. The choice of gray, a color often associated with ambiguity and indecision, emphasizes the unstable ground on which we stand in moments of doubt and fear. This element highlights the pervasive sense of discomfort that underpins much of our existence, suggesting that uncertainty is a fundamental part of the human psyche. The gray floor acts as a reminder that our lives are often built on uncertain and shifting foundations, and this instability can be a source of deep unease. Blood, another recurring element in Jufic's works, represents human frailty. Blood is a powerful symbol of life and mortality, and its presence in his works underscores the vulnerability and fragility of the human condition. By incorporating blood, Jufic confronts the viewer with the harsh reality of our physical and emotional limitations. It serves as a reminder of our susceptibility to pain, suffering, and eventual death. This element brings a visceral and raw quality to the work, making the theme of human frailty tangible and inescapable. The repeating text in Jufic's works signifies madness in repetition. Repetition can be both comforting and maddening. It can create a sense of order, but when taken to extremes, it can lead to a breakdown of meaning and a descent into chaos. The constant repetition of words or phrases in his works mirrors the obsessive and often destructive thought patterns that can plague the human mind. This element captures the cyclical nature of madness, where the repetition of certain thoughts or actions can trap an individual in an endless loop of distress. Finally, each work contains a figure that embodies the synthesis of all these elements. This figure is a reflection of the combined unrest, uncertainty, frailty, and madness depicted in the artwork. It stands as the focal point, the personification of the central theme of the project. The figure is both a victim and a witness to the surrounding chaos, representing the human struggle to navigate the complexities of life. By merging all the elements into a cohesive whole, Jufic creates a powerful and unified portrayal of the unrest that defines the human experience.